Nice. All right.
I was by the thrift shop. I found a completely new backship, not touched. Completely new. Like
Guys, finding packages from a thrift shop. That's awesome.
I bumped into this a whole
amazing.
batches of packages at Schwartz thrift shops.
Nice. They have all these videos of these guys, you know, going around, African American guys with strimals or like, you know, tzitzis and stuff.
I don't know. I'm not
Alright,
married yet. I don't wear straddle.
No, but it's getting around. You know what I'm saying? I remember once by the Academy Awards, Robin Williams, Olav Shalom. He, I don't know, wherever he is, should be a male Yesher for Mila de Shtuta all over the world. He came there with like a Beketcha, basically. It was like a long coat, and everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, it's gonna be the style from now on." You know, movie stars are gonna wear Beketchas, and the Jews are gonna have to switch to something else. We'll see. The kids are so. Jacob said it's at a good Aldiga point this week. He said that everything that there's lamata in this world is really found lamala, meaning every single thing in this world is just a mushal for something that's happening upstairs. And if we look at it like that, it changes our whole perspective of everything that we see and perceive and everything that we go through. I mean, to give a very funny example, just this week we're building the mikveh here anew. So they brought in the framers, you know, the wood framers, after they were rebuilding the mikveh, redoing the walls and stuff. And they built the whole frame in like one day really quickly. And I came over there one day after when they did it, and I touched the wood and I looked at it, and it's wet. And I was like thinking to myself, these guys, what chevra, you know, they're rebuilding a mikveh, we're paying them good money, and they're using like the wood that was probably outside. They probably wanted to sell it for a little cheaper. They're using the wet wood, you know, it was like a little, you know, moist. And now they're going to build over that, and it's going to be all rotten, you know. I was thinking about that. I thought to myself, I don't know, it doesn't make much sense. They would really be so cheap. They're spending so much money on everything else. Kitzer, a day later, before I had a chance to ask anyone, I meet my friend of mine that's from the shul, that's the framer. And I asked him, and I said, what's with the wood, that it's like all wet? So he starts to laugh. He says, it's not wet, it's pressure treated. It's actually the best wood you can get. I figure that, you know, when you look at it, it's treated.
It's damp, right?
It feels damp, but it's actually pressure treated so much so that it'll actually be the strongest wood that you can possibly get. So I learned a lesson from that in and of itself, that you have to look at the lessons of life and realize that you come to Hashem and you say, you know, Hashem, you're not doing the right deal. Things are not working out the way I wanted to. He's the builder. He knows exactly what to do. He knows exactly what he's doing. So you could leave it up to him. He knows what he's doing. But you could learn something.
You gotta do your part too.
You got to do your part always. But you can learn something from everything. Rav Biderman or Melech Biderman said that you can learn from GPS. He brought down a few things that you can learn from GPS. Kamuvan, you could think of a few things. One thing is, you know,
rerouting.
Right, rerouting. Your kid goes off the derech. Your kid tells you off. Your kid does this. So you scream at him, right? No, you just reroute. You just think of a new way, a new road. How are you going to get there? Is it screaming going to help? If the GPS was screaming would help, they would scream at you. But it won't help, you know? So Mimela, just reroute, try to figure out a new way to get to the same goal and deal with it in a calm way. Yeah, and he says, you know, you could even learn something else out there. You can even learn that in the end of the day, no matter how far away you get from the path, he'll just reroute you and get you back, you know? So no matter where you fall in life, you can always get back. Now, kids are so...
As long as you're connected.
As long as you're still connected. As long as you still have a cellular service.
Disconnected, something will happen.
I hear.
Well, it depends what kind of system it is, GPS or a phone.
The GPS is always connected. The satellites are always connected. The Yid is always connected to Hashem.
Even without service, still connected.
Right. There's a beacon inside of our hearts that's connected to God's satellite.
The other day, phone without service. The GPS goes 100% okay. It just needs to load the map.
And that doesn't work.
No, I had internet to load the map.
Right. Yeah. All right. Lamaisa, from Ki Teitzei, we could learn also lessons. A lot of the Mefarshim say that Ki Teitzei refers to the battle against the Yetzer Hara. Ki Teitzei, Muhammad, the parsha starts off when you go out to war, and the Son of Hashem Elokecha b'yadecha, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to give over your enemies in your hands. Yada yada yada. The Torah goes on to explain the whole sipur, the whole story. But the Mefarshim, a lot of them explain that it means the Yetzer Hara. That when you go out to battle against your Yetzer Hara, so then many pshatim come in. So one of the most famous, most fun pshatim to go on, which is a big chizuk, is that Ki Teitzei l'melchama, when you go out to war, Hashem is automatically going to give over your enemies. Meaning, the whole parsha is to just go out, just step up to bat, step up to the battle, and that is already winning the war. So, like this week, I was coming home from a long morning. You know, it was probably 2-3 o'clock already. I was starving. I was thinking, I'm not so intense about the starving because I'm going home, and home. Maybe there'll be lunch. Even if there's not, there's always cereal and milk. There's always something, to be had to eat at home. Yeah. And I was thinking, imagine if I was in the Holocaust or something. You're in one of these famine times. And it's just, if I was in the same hunger level as I am now, but in a famine, chas v'shalom, I would be bugging out. I would be, Hashem, this is the worst thing ever. And you feel so much more hungry and so much more tense. And you feel so intense about it that you go crazy. Right? So the nakuda is that you get crazy about it even more than what's going on. This guy, David Blaine, that, he does all these fun stuff in ice and hanging upside down in water for 7 days. Yeah, I don't know, magician. He's like a extreme dude, Deer devil extremist type of dude. Supposedly he's not doing magic. He's just literally, he does insane things to his body before, and during, and after. No, he does crazy stuff to his body to do that. So he wanted to break the world's record for holding his breath underwater.
Yeah, I watched the documentary.
Oh, I didn't see the documentary. I read a long article about it. And he basically, like all other people, they do all sorts of crazy, I think even medications and drugs to expand the lungs, and they do all sorts of crazy exercises. But he said about himself that when he was a kid, he used to also try to hold his breath because he was always into the Zachen without going too crazy about it. And he was able to hold his breath for like 3 or 4 minutes, which is pretty insane for a little kid. Why? He explained. He said that when a person holds their breath for around 40 seconds to a minute, so the lack of oxygen to the brain starts screaming and causing the brain to say, you're going to die if you don't breathe. Mamela, it forces you to take a breath after around 40 seconds to a minute. Because your brain is deprived of oxygen, it's not thinking straight, mainly you have to breathe. He said, but once you realize that it's just the lack of oxygen convincing your brain that you're going to die, and then you look into the real metzias of it, that a person could live for 3 minutes without oxygen, so then he was able to override it. Already when he was a little kid, he was able to just convince his brain that I'm not dying, and I can continue going.
Anxiety.
It's probably very similar to anxiety. I'll get it. It's probably very similar to anxiety. Have my secretary just take the call.
Okay.
No, it's okay. It's the president. Calling to wish Jonas on congratulations. So that's what David Blaine realized. So the same thing comes down to all these things, that when you realize something, and here's where the famous line of the muffler in the baseball. I was just walking my kid around the block, in the agala, in the carriage, doing the walk that we've done many thousands of times probably. And I see a lady pulling out with her whole family in her minivan, a neighbor, and I see that there's something on the roof of the car. So I just stop, and I'm like, all right, sometimes it happens, a guy leaves his Slurpee on the roof of his car, and it falls off, and weiter. So I sat there, there's nothing I could do, and sure enough, the thing's rolling around, this baseball on top of her car. She stops the car, and she gets out, and she's in a panic. She's looking under the car, she's looking here. And I said, you do know that you have a baseball on your roof of your car? She goes, what? And I got it down and showed her that it was just a baseball. She was like, oh, thank Hashem, because we just came back from a long trip and I was afraid the muffler and the car's not doing so well. Anyways, you hear that sound, you're like, oh no, the whole bottom is about to fall out. I'm going to have to get a new car and then I have to go to the shop and I'm not going to be able to go where I'm going. And she was so relieved. It's just a baseball. She was so happy. She was so calm. And I realized that, don't make mufflers out of a baseball. It's the same thing. You're coming home and you realize that you're going to have food. So all of a sudden, the hunger that you're dealing with, it's not so crazy. I'm a little hungry. I'm going to eat, Hashem. But if I'm never going to eat in the next 10 hours and I don't know if I'm going to eat, then you're like a fast day. You're like, can't believe it's 1:30. I have another 8 hours left. You go crazy. You're like, if you knew that you could eat in like 10 minutes, I'm hungry. Seder. The point is that your mind gets you so intense that it's not going to come. It's not going to come. It's basically the intensity of the yush is more than the actual situation that you're dealing with.
It's like if you knew everything was going to work out,
Ki'ilu.
you never would have any questions or any issues.
Anxiety or issues. You'd have issues. You'd have things. You have things you have to deal with. But you wouldn't have the anxiety that makes it so overwhelming that you can't deal with it. I can't deal with it. You'd be like, why not? And this comes back to what we were speaking about the other day, Yosef, which is what someone I heard just now from a shir, is that, this is from Rebbetzin Spetner, she was speaking about chinuch. She said that when you look back on your life, but it goes for your whole life, if you take yourself and close your eyes and say, okay, I'm in 5 years from now. I'm 5 years older. I'm 5 years ahead of where I am right now, right? I'm 26, I'm 31, I'm 43, I'm however old I'm going to be in 5 years. You close your eyes and you're there. And now you're looking back at the last 5 years of your life and saying, wow, it's pretty crazy. This happened, that happened. I'm not exactly sure what happened. It's a little bit of a daze, being that you're just imagining it anyways. But you're looking back at your life in those 5 years now that you just experienced, and you're saying, wow, I wish I would have done it a little differently. What did I do that was just made it so not worthwhile and not productive, and you know? And then she said, open your eyes back up and come back to the place where you're standing now. And you'll have a totally different perspective in your life. Meaning, you could do this for the minute also. You don't have to be 5, 10 years. You could even, sometimes I do it now in the beginning of Shemona Esrei. I'm like, how do I want my Shemona Esrei? I'm going back Osa Shalom. Right now, I'm going back Osa Shalom. How do I want my Shemona Esrei to have looked now in 5 minutes from now? Mumbling a few words. Oh, wow, what a great thing. Or I could look back and say, wow, I just spent my time speaking to Hashem, focusing, working on it, and doing things like that. So when you use that koach, you realize again that a lot of the intensity of what's happening in the times that you're involved in, the things that you're involved in, they wither away. And then what you have is the issue, the thing. I'm trying to focus on davening. And it's not easy. But you have just that thing that you're focusing on it, and it helps so much. This is why I think a little bit it says, Ki Teitzei l'malchama, Nusan Hashem lokecha b'yadecha. Reb Nosson speaks about this, and Reb Nachman speaks about this over and over again. That much more than what the Yetzer Hara wants to get you in the actual Avera, he wants to just get you depressed about the whole thing.
I was talking to someone about
And to
this
be
today.
miyash, and to be despairing, and just to be say, I'm the worst, I can't do anything, and I'm the... And Reb Nosson says over and over again, obviously based on Reb Nachman's teachings, is that when you go out to battle and you just say, no, I'm going out to battle. I'm starting again, and I'm going to battle again. This is the war. This is the battle. Yes, I failed. Yes, I'm going to fail. Yes, all these things don't last forever, but you still start again and again and again. This is called winning the battle. The battle is not won by that perfect guy that always does everything perfect. The battle is won by always trying and starting again. I just saw a beautiful Gemara this week. We're learning Rosh Hashanah, and it has a little bit of a chizuk in this inyan. It says, a pasuk in Tehillim, Sitav laHashem mishar par. So there's machlekes there in the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah. Reb Yoeli is trying to find a makar, a source for a shofar that is coming from an animal, from a par, from a cow. And so he says, V'sitav laHashem mishar par. Shor par is shofar. It's a drasha, shofar. So you could use a shofar from a cow. Fine. Chachamim, they argue, and they say you could not use a shofar from a cow because that drasha is not true. The drasha that's true in that pasuk is something totally different. And that drasha that the Chachamim say is beautiful. It says, David HaMelech is saying, V'sitav laHashem mishar par. Shar, he says, Rashi explains it, shar is a brand new born ox, a cow. A par is a 3-year-old cow already. It's developed, it's 3 years old, it's full. The first cow was born on the first day of creation, par. It was created whole. Man was not created a baby and grew up very quickly. He was created a man, fully grown man. So to the par was also created like that. So David Melech is telling the Kadosh Baruch Hu, V'sitav laHashem.
So what came first, the chicken or the egg? The chicken.
Because then the chicken laid the egg?
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. These are age-old questions being answered in this year right now, just like that. I love that. Baruch Hashem. I hope. I don't know. I would never got that chicken or the egg thing. It just confused me in high school. And
Wait, hold on.
I think I just gave up on learning from that. I just was like tuned out.
I
Like,
can't learn anymore.
the chicken or the egg. It's too much.
Anyways,
I'm gonna listen to the radio. But V'sita v'Hashem mishar par. He says like this. He says V'sita v'Hashem mishar par is that David Melech is asking HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he's saying, Mishar par, meaning HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I'm starting to speak to you right now, and my tefillah might be like a shar, might be like a little baby. But make it like the baby from the Maisa creation, par, that was created a par. So I might not know what I'm talking about. I might not know what I'm saying, but it should be nivra b'kaimasa. It should be created like mamish with its kaima. And even more than that is probably that from the koyach of drawing yourself back to creation, you can have it that you do something so simple, like speak to Hashem, and it could be with the full shleimus of everything based on the fact that that you're starting anew, right? Is that if you start anew, so there's a tremendous chiyus, and when you start something anew, like as if you were created anew. So I think all of these things basically feed into the thing that it says in the sixth parsha, the second that you go out to war and you start to battle, automatically already you've won the war, because that is the main part of the battle. The main part of the battle is that you just say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I'm starting again. Nothing else matters. Only right now, and I'm just beginning again and again and again. And it's the power of doing that that basically takes away all of this intensity that you think that it's never going to go and it's never going to be. All that intensity melts away when you realize that that's the whole battle. The whole battle is just to start again each time. Moving right along.
Battles to stay in the game.
Battles to stay in the game. Keep fighting. Another way of saying it. Another shot in the whole thing of that is the famous Kutzker Vart. Ki Teitzei l'Melchama. He says, Ki Teitzei, go out. He says, don't wait till Yetzer Hara comes knocking at your door. You got to go out and engage him, right? 6-day war, the Israeli army, famous stories, all of the surrounding nations were about to attack. So they just went out one night or one day, I don't know what it was, I'm not a historian, just bombed the garbage out of all of the other armies before they even attacked. So then they were just like, and then they tried to attack, and it was already, the tides of the war had already turned. Obviously, there were a million miracles that happened in that, but if you learn some of the things I've heard just recently about that. But the point is that you have to go out. Go out and battle the Yetzer Hara. When you go out and you engage the Yetzer Hara and you battle him, then you got a good start on it. You got a good start on it already. Just to end off, there's Ben Sorer Umorer in this week's Parsha also. Right. And the famous wayward son. The wayward son that you got.
Didn't they say there was never a Sarah Mara?
There was never a Ben Sarah Mara, because the Torah sets it up so insane that how
same voice,
it has to be the same voice and the same height and the same this. It's so difficult to get a Ben Sarah Mara that it's almost impossible. So, what's the point of that? Bringing it out? Obviously, there's a lot of limudim, things that we could learn from the whole Ben Sarah Mara, and if it would come out that someone would have that, then they would have to kill him. But one of the things that it says in the Ben Sarah Mara is that inenu shomea b'kol aviv uv'kol imay. He didn't listen to his mother's voice and his father. That's where they learned that the voice has to be the same, something like that. I'm not sure exactly if that's exact limud, but there's I don't even know how you say that Yiddish word. The well-known. Vort on Ben Sarah Mara that says that is that there's a guidance in when you raise your family, that the mother and the father shouldn't be two voices. It should be a unified voice. When the kids hear their father telling them one thing and their mother telling them another thing, and they hear that often, and the dichotomy of the confusion that gets in their head, they don't know who or what or where, and then they try to find themselves in addition to all that, it gets very confusing. And if that were the case, then you couldn't kill this Ben Sarah Mara. If it was Bikol Ava, Bikol Ime, it was one voice, one thing, and the Ben Sarah Mara, the kid didn't listen to it, basically it would be a problem. Not sure how that fits in 100%, but the Nakuda is that we should learn for ourselves is that that you got to have a unified voice in your house. The Kotzker says a different part. He says that means that he didn't hear the voice of his father and the voice of his mother. What does the voice of a father sound like in his house? It sounds like a learning, benching with kavana. He's saying Kriya Shema properly and slowly. These are the voices of his father. His mother saying Tehillim that she should be zechar, lighting the candles and crying over the challah dough. Hopefully not, not dripping in there, but so yeah, it helps the taste. A little salt and doesn't hurt for the challah. But all of these things, if a person, he needs to have that basically. You need to have a Jewish home that's filled with, saturated with these voices, and these voices are what a Jewish kid needs. I heard once the Amshin of Rebbe, some guy came to him and he said, whatever, his wife didn't appreciate the fact that he was in Kolal and they were getting into problems with that. So Amshin of Rebbe said, an eitzah, very sweet, simple eitzah. He said, when you get home, you say hello and sit down in the dining room and learn for 15 minutes. Loud, sweet, beautiful, and make it out a thing. Says your wife hears that you're in Kolal and she sees that you're not home, but she doesn't know what you do. She doesn't experience that you're learning Torah. For all you know, you're smoking cigarettes and reading newspaper all day. And then you come home, you're tired, maybe you say something, maybe you don't say something, about your Torah, your day. But when she sees that you're learning with Simcha and Chiyas, it makes it so powerful. Marish Kol I was speaking to earlier, he was just saying that that's actually a very big nakuda of why they say that people should always start off their marriage learning a little bit, whether for a year, a half year, something. Why? Because it gives the house the voice of the Torah in the house. So if he said that he had some people that the mamish went straight from marriage, straight to work, straight to mamish hard work, coming home late and barely having any Torah involved. And then after like 5 or 6 years, the guy started to make it a little bit, and he started to want to just learn a little bit, and he started to go to a night seder or something, and his wife was just like, what are you doing? It was so foreign to her in the house to have learning. What is this? So it's very important to have that voice of Torah in the house. And Reb Wolbe always says in his farm, I think in Ali Shor, maybe the Kunshas Chasanim, that a person has to realize that when he comes home, he should always have something to say to his wife, and not just a shtickle of Reb Chaim. If she preaches Reb Chaim, then it should be Reb Chaim. But it's be something from his learning. I got it, or something that he has a shtickle to say over to his wife and tell her over how amazing his day was. And this is what I learned. It gives such a powerful effect that she feels what you're doing in a real way, and she hears it, and it inspires her, but it also gives her the feeling that, wow, the thing that you're doing is something so chashuv, which it is, but it connects her to it on a real level, and that gives a voice of the Kedusha in the home. Hashem should help that we should be zeicha to do the right thing and to continue the Elul. And she's like to get to Uman for Rosh Hashanah and see the Mashiach Tzidkeinu, Vrachim Gedolim, having in a Mamish. Amen. Shkoyach. Have a good Shabbos.